Snap Studios.
It's Madeline Barron from In the Dark. I've spent the past 4 years investigating a crime.
When you're driving down this road, I like plan on killing somebody. Yeah.
A 4-year investigation, hundreds of interviews, thousands of documents, all in an effort to see what the U.S. military has kept from the public for years.
Did you think that a war crime had been committed?
I don't have any opinion on that.
Season 3 of In the Dark is available now, wherever you get your podcasts.
Sterling Cuneo was sentenced to life without parole as a teenager. Decades later, his fate lies in the hands of the parole board. Can people really change? PRX presents Cell Blocks to Mountaintops, a podcast and video series that examines how America addresses violence and seeks accountability, told through one man's relentless pursuit of redemption. Reviewers have raved. I was on the edge of my seat. I could not stop listening. Binge the entire series now wherever you get your podcast. Visit cellblockstomountaintops.com for more information. Today, Snappers, a storytelling event. For the first time ever, I get to hand over the Snap hosting microphone to a dear friend of Snap Studios. Oscar-winning star of stage and screen, Lupita Nyong'o is in the studio to introduce a brand new series we've been working on together for years now. A show with heart, soul, and of course a beat, but different than anything we've ever attempted. Some of you know her from Black Panther, from A Quiet Place, or even 12 Years a Slave, but at Snap, we know Lupita as a storyteller, as a 3 a.m. texter, a do-it-again editor, a strings puller, a gift giver, and today, a host extraordinaire. Lupita Nyong'o, take it away.
Thank you, Glenn. What an honor. I've been working with the Snap family on something special. It's called Mind Your Own, a new storytelling show hosted and produced by me that navigates what it means to belong, all from an African perspective. Today, we're going to find our voice. I'm going to tell you a story about finding mine after I chose to lose it. And then we'll meet a Ghanaian who found his voice after it got lost. This is Mind Your Own. Mind your own. That's a phrase I've heard used throughout the continent. It's both an admonition and an invitation. It's mind your own business, like deal with what you're dealing with, you know? But it's also like mind your own people. Find them, take care of them. So when I think about that phrase, for me, this podcast is about me minding my business, and my business is African stories. I grew up surrounded by African stories. Those experiences, not the hot button news reports that we get a whole lot of, but the nuanced, intimate stories are extremely interesting to me. I want to help share them and tell a few of my own. And it is a way for me as a homesick person to feel more at home. So, in this podcast series, we're going to the village and the big city. We're going to sneak into a cemetery, hop onto a stunt plane, hit the red carpet at the Academy Awards, and maybe make an escape in a getaway car. We're going to Kenya and Canada, Ghana and Saudi Arabia, Nigeria and South Africa and beyond. We're going home.
I took over Accra, Smara, Nairobi, Kinshasa, and Cape Town, and Dakar, go. I landed in Atlanta, Bahia, Stockholm, and London, but you make it feel like a home. There's a custom flow, make your own. That got that feeling I know. There's a custom tune, make your own. Like come and follow us home. It's the life I saw, make your own. Mind your own. It's the cat we grow.
In order to create this podcast, I had to get very comfortable with my voice. I'm like fixing my voice, trying to find that perfect radio voice. Welcome to The Sundowner, live from New York City. Today, a little bit of jazz as the sun goes down. It has not been easy. I've long had a complicated relationship with the way I speak. You'll see what I mean. While I was in undergrad, I held on to my Kenyan accent for dear life. I had seen so many Kenyans not even get off the plane and all of a sudden they have an American accent, you know? I would eat tater tots, that's okay, but I would hold on to my accent. After I graduated from undergrad, I was in New York. I was an assistant. I had to do things like QuickBooks. I have no business doing QuickBooks. I call my mom and I say, hey, I don't want to do this. I decided that I wanted to be an actor. When I showed up at the Yale School of Drama, I made this pact with myself that I would learn how to sound American in a way that would guarantee me a career in acting. Because obviously, I didn't know very many people in movies and television with Kenyan accents. There was just no market for that. Casting is unforgiving. It's so hard to suspend people's disbelief if they've seen something in you that they have an unconscious bias about. And I knew that Africa was the unknown element, and I didn't want it in the room. So I made that commitment to myself that I would do lessons twice a week to figure out technically what this American accent actually is in my mouth. I had an accent coach, actually 2 accent coaches. That's how serious I was about it. There were just these sounds that were hellish, like the word CAN''T. As a Kenyan, I would say that as can't, and Americans say can't. And oh my God, just like sound, just can't. And it just sounded so off. Couldn't. That's very American. Couldn't. Because I said couldn't. And so what it was is that the Kenyan accent is you pronounce everything. It's there for pronouncing, so pronounce it. One of the main ways that I could test how well I was doing with my accent was automated voice messages.
Hello, this call may be
like, you know, when you call your phone service provider or something.
For billing, press 1.
For billing, press 1 or say
billing.
For no, press and say. And so I'm practicing my American accent, so I'm going to choose to say the things. And I want to see how far I can get. And so sometimes I got far, other times I gave up. My classmates always loved my accent. We were rehearsing a play. We had an assignment, a group of us, maybe 5 actors. We were devising a show together. And one of my classmates, she's giving an idea of how we should move. She says, okay, so how about you guys come over here and then we can form a curly Q and then we can go back and then we can start the scene. I didn't fully understand what she meant. I raised my hand and said, you spoke of a curly Q. What is that? And everybody burst out laughing. In that moment, everyone was so tickled because of my choice of words. Like, you spoke of a curly Q. I guess that's not very American. Oh God, I still have work to do. The hardest was calling home.
Hi, Mommy. How are you?
It was very uncomfortable for me to do that. It was just, it felt like a shirt that just didn't fit, you know? An itchy shirt
that didn't fit. And I was so afraid to let go of the exercise because I knew that it was in repetition that it would stay. And the idea was to stick to an American accent until it became second nature so that I could reach for it whenever I wanted it. My very first meeting with a casting director and her asking me about where I was from, and I said Kenya, and she said, "Oh my goodness, you don't have an accent." And I was at once so elated and also so crushed. I had rid myself of myself, kind of. Right before I graduated, I auditioned for this movie called 12 Years a Slave. It starred some heavy hitters. I mean, you're talking Brad Pitt and Chiwetel Ejiofor and Michael Fassbender, these names that I had, people that I'd studied and grown up watching. It was just so bizarre. And now I was cast in that movie. They had an edit of it and they had an understanding of what this might do for my career.
I had this Ghanaian British friend who also worked as an agent. Before I started press for 12 Years a Slave, he asked me,
"Lupita, what's the story with your accent? I can understand why you would do that for an American market, but the truth is that the stage you're going to be on is a global one. And do you want to send a message of an American accent being more valuable than your own?" I remember being so stunned by that. Like, the truth is, like, at the end of the day, I never wanted to lose my authenticity. I called my reps and we had a conference call, and I said, "I've decided that from tomorrow, I am going to return to my original accent. I want to send a message that being an African is enough, They'd never heard me speak in a Kenyan accent. So they were like, "Well, we look forward to hearing what that sounds like." And I was like, "Yeah, I look forward to it too, I gave myself the weekend, actually. I don't think it was an immediate thing because I was just like, oh my God, I don't, it was like this, my American accent was this, what can I call it? It was a harness that had been holding me for so long. And all of a sudden, like, how am I not going to have my harness? I needed a few days to wrap my head around it. I'd also prepped my roommate as well. I remember waking up and going to the kitchen to see her and trying to remember how to say good morning in a Kenyan accent. And what came out was so neither here nor there. And I realized, oh my God, there is no turning back. It sounded like what I sound like now. I say a few words that sound Kenyan, others that sound like deceptively British, others that sound American. And I couldn't find myself in my mouth anymore. I just felt like, the word is imposter. And I just wept. Then I spoke to my mom and she said, "Your accent is representative of your life experience." That gave me solace, that an accent is actually born of it comes to being from your life. And accent, just like skin and hair, it can change. And it's okay, I guess this accent is called Lupita. I don't know who can claim it, but me.
when Snap returns, we're off to Ghana, where Lupita introduces us to a very special musician whose story meets his song. When Mind Your Own, the Snap Judgment special continues. Stay tuned. This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. What if comparing car insurance rates was as easy as putting on your favorite podcast? With Progressive, it is. Just visit the Progressive website to quote with all the coverages you want. You'll see Progressive's direct rate, then their tool will provide options from other companies so you can compare. All you need to do is choose the rate and coverage you like. Quote today at Progressive.com to join the over 28 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy. Welcome back to Snap Judgment. It's our Mind Your Own special called The Sound of Home. It's just one episode of the brand new 10-part Mind Your Own podcast series with the one and only Lupita Nyong'o.
In my story, I get all kinds of mixed up whenever I try to express myself. Some people don't have that issue. They know their voice. They know exactly who they are every time they open their mouths to speak. But does the world really hear what they have to say? Today on Mind Your Own, we're passing the mic to Yao Atausu, someone who knows that struggle. Our story starts in Germany in the late 1980s, when a young couple, Yao and Mary, had just moved there from Ghana. I hope you're listening.
I got home and I said to my wife, I lied to the guy. I don't know what happened to me. I've lied to somebody and I'm still thinking about it. I shouldn't have, but I don't know what I did.
This was a guy Yao met at the post office, of all places. Yao was in line sending a letter back home to Ghana when this man just came up to him from nowhere and said, "Are you a musician?"
I looked at his face and I said, I play the drums, because that was the only thing that could come to mind. And he said, "Oh yeah, I'm looking for a drummer." So I told my wife that I was going to use the dining table as my drum set. While I was playing on my dining table, and my wife said, "You are disturbing me because there's no way you're going to make it." My wife said, "Call the guy right now and apologize and tell him you're not a musician." I didn't listen to her, so I started training, playing. I wouldn't even sleep. 5 days later, the guy came, picked me up.
2 years into living in Germany, Yao was still struggling to find work. He didn't speak German, so he was ready to jump on any opportunity that came his way, even one as strange as this one. The man from the post office drove Yao to a big building, a rehearsal space, and he put him in front of a drum set.
As soon as I got there, for the first time in my life, I sat on the drums. And I remembered what I was playing on my dining table, using both legs. I got so scared. But there was one thing that I could do. I could hold on to the tempo. By tempo, I mean how fast or how slow it goes and how you are able to keep the timing. That I was very good. So, after the session, I was expecting the guy to say, "Nah, man, you can't play the drums." But he said, "Man, you're good." And I thought he was joking. How could I be good?
Yao came back home, sat down at the dinner table, and ate dinner with his wife.
I told her that I didn't embarrass myself. She didn't believe me, but that was okay because I knew I was telling her the truth. After maybe some months, 2, 3 months, I gained confidence. And so I was able to play the way I wanted to play. The only thing that I couldn't do at that time was I couldn't play any drum phrase or drum roll. And by that, I mean, that I couldn't do that. But playing straight, I was so good.
But Yao had a point to prove. He took his wife to rehearsal to show her the songs he'd been working on.
When she saw me playing it on drums, singing songs that I had written myself, it was amazing. See my pregnant wife dancing to the tunes I was singing. It was awesome. I just loved it.
Yes. All that time, Yao had been banging away in the middle of the night on those drums. His wife had been pregnant. But as happy as he was playing, the truth was the music, the band, the idea of building a future in Germany was over.
The dream of coming up with a reggae album in Germany did not materialize because they were putting pressure on me to leave the country.
He had this vision of creating a reggae album, but Yao and Mary had come to Germany on temporary visas that had run out, so none of it would be possible. They would have to leave.
It was tough, and that was when we left for Canada.
They moved into a tiny apartment in Toronto with their baby boy, who was born just before they left Germany. Over the next few years, Yao worked to make ends meet, and eventually he got a job at Toys R Us. The pay was low at the toy store, but the work...
It was very easy. I didn't have to use the brain much. Very easy to do. So I could sing and not make mistakes. I got the opportunity to work on my songs because every time I was working, I could sing loud. It was okay for everybody. They even liked, they enjoyed it. So the day I didn't sing, they would come and say, hey, come on, we want to hear some songs. Then I'll be singing. So that helped me a lot. When I was working at Toys R Us, sometimes they play music. They have loudspeakers. While we're working there, sometimes they'll play it. It's on the radio. I remember this song. Everybody dance now. Boom, 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 boom. If you are dead, you wake up to listen to it. That is excellent song. I just love it. And so that influenced me a lot. I wanted to be quite different from anything that I already heard from Ghana. I had left Ghana, and so what was actually happening in Ghana, I wasn't so sure. I had not heard anything about rap music from any Ghanaian musician. And so with my influences by Grandmaster Flash, I said, why don't I introduce this into the musical scene in Ghana? So I made up my mind to rap in the Free language.
As Yao's mastery of music grew, so did his family. He and Mary had another baby, so Yao picked up another job to help pay for recording equipment.
Imagine living with your wife and 2 little children in an apartment and always going bam, bam, bam.
An Atari computer next to the dishes, wires everywhere. It would be a lot for anyone to put up with.
My wife, from the very beginning, knew everything I was doing because the studio was right in our living room. I finished the album, and the first people I played to were my wife and kids. I told my wife, this is what I have. I played it. She loved it. My kids loved it. And they danced to it. And I said, this is good. It must be good. Because I know my wife. And once she was satisfied with the album, I was very happy about what I had done. So, when I played to some Ghanaians, there were those who said, oh, it's good. They appreciated it. Oh, this is good. But you look at their faces and you can read from their faces that it's not good. It doesn't sound good to them.
Yao's songs were so different from the Ghanaian high life everyone was used to. The rap was in Twi, not in English, and the dance tracks were quick, quirky, mixing so many styles.
Because it's so unpredictable, you get some kind of fear. What if it doesn't work the way you envision it? What if people don't like it? What if the album doesn't sell?
What would be the point of all these sacrifices that he and Mary had made if the album flopped? But Yao was determined, and he had a plan. He sent the master cassette tapes of his album over to his twin brother in Ghana, who agreed to help him try to get it into clubs and onto the radio. They had enough money to produce 50 cassette tapes. He decided to call himself Atakak, which means little twin. The one thing he didn't have to think about at all was what to name the album. He'd always known what it would be. Obasima. Yao's brother handed it out to DJs in Ghana, and Yao waited. Months crawled by. Then, his brother called.
He also tried what he could, but it wasn't the best.
No one was interested in his album. And for all Yao knew, those tapes were sitting in the corner of some shop gathering dust.
And honestly, I was so disappointed. So disappointed because I had put so much effort into this and I had wasted my money. That's what I thought. And so I had to start something new. And when it happens this way, sometimes it puts you off. So I wasn't writing any songs anymore. But I didn't forget what I did. I knew I had done a good job, but just that it wasn't good enough. So I was angry at myself. My wife didn't say anything about it. He didn't mention it, and I didn't want to mention it either.
Yao wasn't sure what to do next. Should he keep going with music? He tried to find a more stable job. And then, one day, after work,
I went to church. I was playing the drums. We were just rehearsing. While I was there, I had a call from somebody that my wife had called. They asked her to come to the immigration for her papers. So she went there. And so I went to pick up the kids. And when I came home, they asked, where's mommy? And I said, oh, mommy will come back. I lied to them. I went to the immigration and they said she had been deported. I was dumbfounded. And I wanted to hide from many people. So I tried to hide my feelings, my emotion. I was so downcast.
Yao and Mary had separate asylum applications. So while Mary had been deported, Yao stayed behind in Canada. The kids, however, would have to go with their mother.
It wasn't easy sending your kids to Ghana or having your wife in Ghana. It doesn't make you think straight. So I was working hard, working even on weekends, Saturdays especially, because all I needed was money.
Yao knew he had no choice but to turn away from music once and for all. He got rid of his entire studio, the mics, the computer, the keyboard, all his equipment.
I wished I could get money fast so that I could leave Canada as fast as I could. But it never worked that way. I had to wait and wait. And so it took me a long time, long time. And I had to endure it until the end when I said, now, hey, I have this, I have that, and I think I'll be able to settle down in Ghana, work to keep my family going.
Yes, after 8 years, he had finally saved up enough money to provide for his family.
And that was when I left for Ghana. I was so excited. She was so excited. And I can't describe it. She had to run to me. And yes, we hugged for a long time, yes. Finally, I was with my wife again. We went home and the kids were there. They jumped me and I said, yes, I'm back. Now I'm on my feet. I'm on my feet again. I'm on my feet again.
Yao had his family together again.
So I wasn't writing any songs anymore. I gave up on music.
For the next decade, Yao worked to support his family any way he could. His kids grew up and moved away. His beats were a thing of the past. Or so he thought.
And I had a call from my son in Canada. He called me and I said, there's a guy by the name Brian and he's looking for me. He's been looking for me for a while.
It was 2015, over 20 years since Yao created Obasima. His son gave Brian Yao's number. Brian called him up and said he'd uploaded Obasima to the net.
And I was shocked because I never saw that somebody would put this on the net. And it was doing well on the net.
Brian was an American indie record guy who found one of the last Obasima cassette tapes on a random roadside stand in Cape Coast. On the cover was a young Yao with his 90s haircut, black shades, popped denim collar, and a backwards cap. The words Atakak jumping out in retro 3D printing.
Brian Shimkovich, came to Ghana and found the cassette, bought it, and loved it.
Brian made a blog page and put Obasima out there on the internet. This time, people from all over the world connected to it. The old school beats, Yao rapping in Chui, the high life chorus, it all came together to make a certified underground hit. Turns out, Brian had been looking for him for 8 years.
I asked myself, is this guy for real? Now he doesn't even understand the language. So how could he possibly like my songs?
Language differences don't have a place on the dance floor. People in Europe wanted to come see him play Obasima live. And Brian was making Yao the offer of his dreams to sign him to a record label and launch a worldwide tour. Yao took a leap of faith.
So my first concert was in London. I'm singing in a language that my fans don't understand. And it tells me that I've done something good. Because even though I restricted myself initially to my people, now it's become global. And I love that.
Next stop, Berlin. Amsterdam, and eventually the US of A.
I am a downhill skateboarder, and your music is very big in the downhill skate community.
Wow.
We love skating to it. That's like our favorite stuff.
Thank you very much. Nice to know.
Yes.
All those years ago, squeezed in between an Atari computer and a dining room table, Yao had performed for an audience of just 3. But now, hundreds were dancing along to his title track and ultimate inspiration. Even though Mary couldn't attend, Yao sang her praises every time because she is Obasima.
So Obasima actually means an ideal woman. And I regard my wife as an ideal woman. I believe in loving somebody forever, not just for a while, not temporarily. When I'm in love with you, I'm in love with you forever. She's everything to me now, besides God. My wife is next. And she's taught me a lot of things. She's taught me about life. And so I sang about her love. That's what I wrote. About an ideal woman and what she does.
Yao's voice is so bright. It's just laced with optimism. And when you hear the lengths he went to, first of all, to pass as a musician before he was one, and then to make his dream happen, it's all contained in his voice, his hope, his faith, his confidence. The cloud doesn't have a silver lining. It seems like the whole cloud is silver. Yeah, he just seems to wear his heart on his sleeve in a really, really inspiring way. For sharing your story with Mind Your Own, I thank you, Yao. Yao lives in Kumasi with his wife and still performs as Atakak to this day. To find more of his music, check out our show notes. Thanks for listening. It's been good to have you. And I enjoyed going to our living room. Scratch that. Our home studio, where there's an Atari computer and microphones in the bathroom, and smiling in front of us, Obasima. See you the next time you mind your own. Until then, here's a song from the continent. Show My Side by CK and Amare.
Pull up at my location. Pull up at my location. Come make I drop your occupation. Oh, girl, baby, show my side. Baby, show my side. Baby, show my side. Baby, show my side. Baby, show my.
Mind Your Own is hosted and produced by me, Lupita Nyong'o. This is a production of Snap Studios at KQED, with sales and distribution by Lemonada Media. The executive producers are Glenn Washington and Mark Ristich. Our managing editor is Regina Bediaco. Our director of production is Marissa Dodge. Original music in my story, Losing My Accent, was by Ian Hughes Pelton, also known as Tofu Jack. The story, Obasima, was produced by Marissa Dodge and Regina Bediaco, with assistance from Bo Walsh. Original music by Clay Xavier. Additional music from Marla Ketha and Atakak's Obasima, courtesy of Awesome Tapes from Africa. Our Mind Your Own producers are David Exume and Priscilla Alabi. Our story scouts are Ashley Okwosa, Fiona Nyong'o, Jessica Carissa, and Lesedi Olukomoche. Our editors are Nancy Lopez and Anna Sussman. Our story consultant is John Facile. Engineering by Miles Lassie. Our music supervisor is Sandra Lawson Ndu, also known as Sandu Ndu. She also created the Mind Your Own theme song with Peach Curls, featuring vocals from Ehiyorobo. Graphic design by Jemima Eke. Original artwork by Mateusz Sitole. Special thanks to Alan Coy, Jake Kleinberg, Samara Still, Sarah Yu, Warner Music Group, and Afropods. Now, go out, get together, and mind your own voice.
From all of us here at Snap Studios, we hope you'll dig it. You can enjoy Mind Your Own on any podcast platform available for your ears. Mind Your Own with Lupita Nyong'o. Now, after the break, I get to sit down with Lupita to talk about the story behind the story of making Mind Your Own. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Snap Judgment. My name is Glenn Washington, and you just heard a brand new episode from our new show, Mind Your Own. And right now, we have Lupita Nyong'o in studio to talk more about it. Lupita Nyong'o, I'm not going to keep you too long. I just got a few questions for you.
All right. I'm here for it.
All right. You are an Academy Award winner. You know how to bring someone's character to life. But what's it like to reveal yourself?
Ooh. I felt very naked. Remember in the beginning, I really didn't want to share my own stories. I wanted to find other people's stories to share.
Right.
As an actor, it's already all eyes on me. In this podcast, I kind of wanted to shine a light on other people. But what I learned from speaking to you and Norma Lajim is that I needed to allow myself to be a portal to the other stories and to use that influence that I have, that interest that people have in me, to invite them to the African perspective from a perspective that they're familiar with.
I'm right at this point. I got to ask you.
Yeah.
Are you scared? People are going to hear the real you.
Woo. The answer is yes. I am scared. You tried to encourage me to consider sharing from my own perspective. And I remember you said to me that it is the stories that you feel most apprehensive about sharing that are the stories that you have to share. And I didn't like that, Glenn. I didn't like to hear that one bit. But after trying and, trying to escape making this personal for a while, I really just took that counsel to heart. And when I did it, it just resonated differently. And I could feel the energy shift even among the Snap team,
Yeah.
In the end, what we've created has been chaotic for me. Sometimes I'd go and have a session and tell stories and I'd leave and I'd be like, I cannot believe I told those stories without considering that the entire world might hear them, And then, wanting to backtrack and say, is there a way that we could just edit me out of that story? Even now, I don't know how people are going to take this. I don't think I've been this open and vulnerable and playful and just super, super duper me when the cameras are off. But it's also been exhilarating. And I've got great company in the stories that have accompanied mine.
Let me ask you this, though. Kind of the guiding light almost of this project was that it was made for it was a internal conversation. It was African to African. It was
yes.
Now everybody can hear, everybody can come on board.
Yes.
But this is us folks talking.
Yes. True.
And oftentimes any project, especially in an American or Western context, is made for a Western gaze.
Right.
You did not want that.
Yes.
Why was that so important?
I've grown up and existed in American story a lot. And so in hearing this sort of like radio storytelling in the American context, I started to develop this real dream, desire, ache, longing to give myself the gift of hearing my own story in a way that I didn't get to hear it much growing up. And in doing so, in ensuring that we told stories that welcomed first and foremost Africans to hear them, that other people would be as invited as I was to hear the stories, that they would feel the universality of the African perspective in the specificity of the stories we are telling for each other, to each other, in a way that would be just as inspiring and remind them like, damn, this person is different from me, but they're also so much the same. And so for the most part, I wanted to tell the story from the perspective of people who are somewhat familiar with the continent. And so I didn't want to be explaining myself in like a sort of rudimentary way, you know, like, hey, you know, Nairobi is the capital city of Kenya. No, I wanted to talk to people who had proximity, and so that it really sends the message to Africans first that, yeah, no, I'm not explaining you, I'm sharing you.
And if you are on the outside, catch up.
Yes, exactly. You know, what I want is for people to merge into our lane, you know?
We're merging. I think we were, okay. You think, okay, there's going to be a celebrity and she's going to do this show and they're going to be off somewhere and we'll basically put it together. Mm-hmm. When you would go off and you're working on Black Panther, A Quiet Place, and then we wake up to pages and pages of notes. How do you keep that energy, and how do you make sure that what you wanted here didn't get lost?
You know, my passion for this project is unbridled. I remember when I was going off to make A Quiet Place, I let Marissa and Regina know that it would be hard to get me because when I go into a project, I go full in. Like, I don't know how to do things halfway. But when I got to London and I started working on A Quiet Place, I realized like when I would see my inbox and I would see an email from Snap, I would have like a leap in my heart. Like I was excited to get to a moment where I had the energy to listen to the draft. I couldn't help it. And so Mind Your Own actually became my restful place. And it fed me. It inspired me. It was my respite from the hard work of making A Quiet Place. And I'm very fortunate that my work is my passion. I love being an actor. But I found this new love in storytelling, and I find myself waking up wanting to do more. I look forward to it so much, and I think it's because I also found the right partners to do this with. So
yes, you did. Yes, you did. Absolutely 100%.
Yes, you all have been ridiculously inspiring. From the very beginning, how you interrogated the idea, you know, the questions you asked in order to hone in what a mind your own story was in such a way that you could go out and find the story scouts and find the stories and bring them back to me so that my work was actually, my load was lightened as the creator, the dreamer of this project. So the answer is that the passion begets passion. And that's how I ended up being able to juggle it. It just like, it happened to me in such an amazing way. It's been a real labor of love. And I don't know how to work in any other way than with my full heart.
Thank you, Lupita. Once you get that story in you, it's hard to get it out. I know that. But we thank you so much for seeing this through, and we can't wait for everyone to hear it. Thank you so much, Lupita, and big love and thanks to Limonada Media, to Afropods, to Warner Music Group, Snap's home station of KQED, CAA's Josh Lindgren, Norma Lijam of Mainstay Entertainment, Team Snap, and to each and every person who put love into this show. There is so much more where this came from. Stories to make you laugh, make you cry, look through someone else's eyes, and starting right now, you can listen and enjoy Mind Your Own on any podcast platform. And this is not the news. No way it's just the news. In fact, in February of 2020, you could be excited, off to the airport to fly to Kenya to work on a brand new show about Africa. Driving there, listening to NPR on the radio, you would suddenly consider that this virus thing they're mentioning, this might actually be something to worry about, and realize that, oh no, they're going to let you fly to Africa, but no way are they going to let you fly back. And you would still not be as far away from the news as this is. But this is PRX.
I took from Accra, Smara, Nairobi, Kinshasa, and Cape Town, and Dakar, go. I landed in Atlanta, Bahia, Stockholm, and London, but you make it feel like a home. There's that custom flow, make your home. That got that feeling I know. There's that custom tune, make your home. Make 'em and follow us home.